from 75.2 to 56.3. In 2015-2016, when you're comparing scores between Britt David and Muskogee County, you can see that Asian students had the highest amount of distinguished learners in both Britt David and the district. You can also see that African American had the highest amount of developing learners at Britt David. There were no beginning learners at Britt David this year, and Hispanic was the greatest beginning learner in the district. In the 2016-2017 school year, you can see that the developing learner changes to more white students than African American students at Britt David, but that Asian students are still the highest distinguished learners, both at Britt David and the district. And African American students actually become the largest beginning learner in the district. In the 2017-2018 school year, you can see that African American is the smallest amount of distinguished learners at both Britt David and the district, with 60% of learners here and only 3.1% of learners here. In 2018-2019, you can see that one African American student is the beginning learner at Britt David in ELA, and there is a much smaller amount of African American students that are distinguished learners. And you can see that now, instead of Asian students being the highest amount of distinguished learners at Britt David, we actually have white students being the highest amount of distinguished learners. So the strengths of Britt David, we have consistent enrollment. Our CCRPI score is well above the district and state scores. We have a score of 100 on mastery for CCRPI and a score of 100 on closing gaps. We have an increase in readiness score for our CCRPI from a 98.6 to a 98.9. We had an increase in teacher experience in higher education, and we have great attendance at the school. The weaknesses are a decrease in CCRPI score over the past 4 years. We have a decrease in progress score for CCRPI from a 90.9 to an 87.4. And we have a decrease in ELA progress score specifically from 86.91 to 75.39. We also have a decrease in the number of distinguished students in third grade ELA from 75.2 to 56.3. We can see a gap in scores for African American students, and there is not enough staff diversity in either ethnicity, race, or gender. So a few discussion questions. What has caused the large decrease in the amount of distinguished students for third grade ELA GMAS scores? How can we increase the number of distinguished learners for third grade ELA GMAS scores? And what can we do to become a more diverse faculty? Could this help close the gap for our African American students' test scores? Some next steps that we need to take. We need to collect and analyze data to figure out why there is a decrease in third grade ELA test scores. We need to ensure that newly hired teachers are more diverse both in ethnicity and or gender so that we can create a more diverse faculty. And we need to close the learning gap for our African American students. Thank you for listening to this data overview.